Now let's get to one of our top stories this morning. We're covering the Jimmy Rodgers murder trial. Now this all stems from the 2015 murder of local Southwest Florida doctor Teresa Sievers. Last week we saw explosive testimonies as witnesses took the stand, including Curtis Wright, who is one of the alleged accomplices in this case. Today, the defense will begin to question their witnesses, and we could see this case wrap up as early as sometime this week. So let's get right to Lisa, who is anchoring our coverage. She is out there at the Lee County Courthouse. She reported on this case when it first happened years ago and has been following it extensively since then. Lisa, what can you tell us?
Well, Lauren, if the defense gets their way here, and this is a very, very big if, Jimmy Rodgers could be a free man as soon as this morning. His team filed a motion for acquittal in this case to the judge. The evidence, they say, is not enough to prove that he is tied to this murder, and now that motion lies in the judge's hands. He is said to be making a decision on this morning. Now remember, Jimmy Rodgers is accused of brutally murdering Dr. Teresa Sievers in her home in Bonita Springs in 2015. The state says he was part of a conspiracy to kill her. They say Teresa's husband, Mark Sievers, hired Curtis Wright, his best friend, to murder Teresa, and they say Mark wanted Teresa dead because she was going to leave him and take their children. The state says Wright then asked his friend, Jimmy Rodgers, to help him murder Teresa in exchange for some money from her life insurance policy. As for why Rodgers could go free, this all is because of a motion that his defense team filed on Friday. They say the state does not have enough evidence to prove that Jimmy Rodgers was there when Teresa was murdered. Take a listen.
Other than the statements of Taylor Showmaker and Curtis Wayne Wright, the evidence introduced by the state is circumstantial and is not inconsistent with the defense theory of events. There are no fingerprints, there's no DNA, no eyewitness testimony, recordings, emails, cell phone records, bank statements, etc. that provide substantial competent evidence or directly connect Jimmy Ray Rodgers with planning or participating in the homicide and/or burglary.
Now, that defense lawyer did add, aside from Curtis Wright's testimony, the state can't definitively place Rodgers at the scene of the crime. So what does all of this mean? We asked a legal expert, a law professor, Pamela C., about this, and she says it's common in trials like this one for the defense to make a motion like this for acquittal.
What the defense has said is that there was insufficient evidence. There was no direct evidence. It was all circumstantial. It was all testimony. However, that testimony that was presented was fairly compelling if you believed it. And when it comes to the credibility of a witness, that belongs to the jury to decide, not to the judge.
As for Curtis Wright and Taylor Showmaker's testimony, Rodgers' defense had an explanation for why they were not reliable witnesses. Take a listen to that.
Curtis Wayne Wright's statements are full of inconsistencies.
Old copy machine, you make a copy, you throw that one out, and you make a copy of a copy. Then you make a copy of the copy of the copy of the copy. And each time it gets less and less legible. It's more difficult to read and understand because it's further away from the original. Did one person have a motive? Yes. Did Mark Sievers have a motive? Apparently he did. Curtis Wayne Wright seemed to share that same motive. But as it got to Jimmy Rodgers didn't know either one of them very well, apparently. So when it got to Jimmy Rodgers, it was so watered down, that particular motive would not apply to him.
So that law expert does believe the defense's motion for acquittal will end up being denied, and you just heard her talk about the motive here. She says that it's because the motive isn't clear on this case. She says based on what we've heard in this trial, Jimmy Rodgers did not know Mark Sievers well. He didn't know his children or Teresa, so you can't make the same argument like you can for Wright that Jimmy Rodgers did this for his friend Mark because they weren't even friends, or that he did this for the safety of Mark's children because he didn't even know them. She says the state has not demonstrated a motive here for why Rodgers would murder Teresa, but she also says they are not required to present a motive.
You have to show that they did it, how they did it, and they were present there. So far they have shown that he might have been present. Through the testimony of Mr. Wright, they have shown that he was probably present. But there are a sufficient number of questions associated with that and with the credibility of that witness, that perhaps you might be able to doubt that.
She says while a motive is not required here, it does help explain to the jury why. Why would Jimmy Rodgers do this? She says it helps tell the full story here. Now, we are just getting started here on Fox 4 Morning News. We will continue to be out here letting you know what we can expect for this morning. We know Curtis Wright took the stand on Friday to be cross-examined by the defense. We will have more on that, as well as what we can expect today. We do, again, expect that the judge will continue this trial and vote no on that motion for acquittal, because our legal expert, as you just heard from, says this is what she believes will happen. But you can count on us, not just on air, but online here on our website, fox4now.com. We'll be live streaming the entire trial, and we also have the live stream on our Fox 4 app, and we'll be sending breaking push alerts there, so you'll want to download that as well.